Okay,
Oh, we're on live.
it looks like we are official.
Yeah, it looks like it's happening. Okay.
Like it's happening right now. Let's see if it's actually happening.
Okay.
Are actually live.
Okay, I'm going to step away from the phone for a second.
All right, and we're going to mute you.
Yes.
Okay.
We can mute everyone for now.
Did you do it?
No, I am.
Okay.
Mute all. And I'm going to unmute you. Red. And I'm going to admit those folks that are joining us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us for this very special bedtime stories. My name is Sin Road.
Hello, everyone. My name is Red. And Sin, I need you. Well, first of all, everyone, welcome to the special episode of Bedtime Stories. We're doing this for our friend Carlos, who passed away unexpectedly. And I got a phone call, asking for help. Wasn't enough money for our friend to be laid to rest in the proper way, and that's not how we do things. So I called Sin, and here we are. Cynthia, say a few words. I've got to fix a few settings here.
And here we are. And so if you're in our private room here, you'll see that in the chat, I've just put up the donation link so that we could support Carlos Sanchez in his funeral expenses. And this is not something that Red and I have set up, but it is something that was set up directly by his family. So rest assured that that money is going to go directly to his funeral expenses. And this is one of the reasons why we call ourselves a community of love, is because we have to support each other, especially at times of need. And there's no time like the present to be able to support those. This is all a tragedy. But we wanted to be able to come together. And normally bedtime stories is about like a kiki, about like, oh, what happened in nightlife? Oh, tell us this little dirt or tell us that little dirt. But because we do love each other, we need to support each other in the good times and the bad, And so that's what this is about today. As soon as Red called and had gotten that call from
Samir.
Because I couldn't remember who it was that called Red, but Samir called Red and said, hey, can you guys help? Well, yeah, we can help. Let's do this. Let's talk. Let's share some fond memories of Carlos and raise some money. So as I said, in the chat here is a donation link.
And it will also be popping up on our Twitch, and I'm going to post it under the Facebook Live. And if you haven't already, and you can, click the link and give a little donation. Do what you can.
Yeah, whatever you can give. And no amount is too small. Every little bit counts. We probably are going to just start with, I know that we have a video that was done.
We do. I received a message from Mike Burrill, and Mike said that he had a short video of Carlos speaking that he wanted to share. And after me looking at it, I thought it might be a good way to start the show. So I'm going to play that video in one moment. It's loading up on my screen.
While we're waiting for the rest of the friends and family to join us here, we'll start with this video and then we'll get into talking. And
just
everybody
bear with me.
But thank you to everybody for being here for this special edition of Bedtime Stories.
Yes.
So right now you're all muted. Don't worry. We will be unmuting you so you can talk. We just wanted to get that out, you know, because sometimes when we get a lot of folks that start just talking over. So, all right. Are we ready for the video? I think Red is frozen. So what I'm gonna do is give you guys a chance to say hello. I'm asked everybody to unmute. I want you to say hello and let's do one at a time if we can. I'll start with, let me start with the first person who was here. I'm asking Perry to unmute himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Perry, and I'm glad to be here to support my man, my partner, my friend, good buddy of mine who I spent the last 32 years traveling this globe with. He's a good brother, and I'm really going to honor his life here. I'm celebrating tonight. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right, who else do we have in here? John, you want to say?
Hi. Hi. Yes, I'm here. It's funny. I've known Carlos since 1975, and the day before he passed away, I had a funny story that I wanted to tell him, and I remember thinking that I had to call him, and I never got the chance to. So I hope to share a couple of stories with you later about him. So here I am. Hi.
Welcome. Thank you. Red got kicked out, but she'll be right back on. We're gonna keep on going. Mary?
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I spoke to Carlos just last week Saturday, just hours before. I know Carlos for over 30 years. That's my buddy, my friend. We used to joke about him being my husband. And I'm still in shock and disbelief. I can't believe it. But I know it's real. So I'm just sending a whole lot of love out to everybody because I know I need it for me.
Yeah. So, Vaughn, I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Yeah, how you doing? Actually, I met Carlos many years ago when he used to play at the garage, but I didn't know him as well as I've known him for like the last 10 years. My friend Perry, who spoke earlier, we are mutual friends, and Perry introduced me to Carlos again, and we became friends ever since that time.
Well, thank you for being here. David, it looks like you're next. If you're not speaking right now, if you could just unmute, I'll mute you. Ask you to unmute just so that we don't have the background noise.
Hi, I'm David. My name is David McQueen, and I'm here to celebrate Carlos tonight. I want to say thank you, Cynthia, and thank you, Red, for putting this together to give us a chance to celebrate my friend of 30 years. I miss him already, and I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to be here because I miss him. And thank you again, guys, for putting this together for us.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Thanks, David.
thank you, David. All right.
Sin, I think maybe speaker view.
Oh, so how about that? Where am I?
And, all right, you guys continue. I'm gonna work this other stuff out on my end.
David, disciple.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
How you doing?
Good.
God bless you. Well, I'm so glad to be able to celebrate Carlos tonight. I look forward to it, and I'm here to celebrate with everybody else tonight and share a story or two about my good friend Carlos Sanchez.
Thank you for being here. All right. Amina, would you like to say hi?
Yeah, so definitely. My name is Amina. I am like Carlos' little sister. We've been friends for about 32 years. I do want to share that Carlos called me around 3 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks ago. I was in Puerto Rico and I was just sitting on the beach and everybody else was in the water. And he called. And he called because he was worried about a mutual friend of ours that had been in the hospital, but I was able to comfort him and tell him that she was okay and she was home. And then he told me the good news that he was expecting. And he was looking forward to his future and things were looking good. But me and Carlos, we shared the same beliefs. And I believe that, you know, when it's time, right? Carlos would want me to celebrate him. We have over 3 decades of memories. I had the pleasure of spending a lot of time with him in the last 2 years, and I'm grateful for that. And I just want to say to Perry, I love you, and thank you.
All right. So for those of you that are just joining us, this is a special edition of Bedtime Stories in loving honor of our friend Carlos Sanchez. In the chat, you'll find the donation link for the GoFundMe. That's to support his funeral services. And we've also posted that on our live streams in both the Twitch and Instagram and Facebook and all the places that we're streaming. I am Sin Rose, and my cohort over there is Redness, which I don't know why she can't unmute.
I can unmute. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm over here working on some technical things while this is all happening. And we were trying to get this video going that was sent to us featuring Carlos. And I mean, I'm just going to be straight up. I'm at my mom's and her internet connection is not good. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try to play the video. It's either going to work or I'm going to send it to Cynthia and she'll try it. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna work it out, people.
We're gonna work it out one way or
I'm gonna go ahead and hit play and let's see how it goes.
A little bass in my voice. And I still can't give it in my S sound.
Hold on. One moment, I'm gonna start it over.
Further back. My first question to you would be,
again.
Okay, here we go. And share. And go. Great. Okay.
Positive energy.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? In the meantime,
In the
I'll
meantime,
wait for the video to start and somebody else can go ahead and speak. And I'll let you guys know when it's ready.
I'm gonna ask everybody to unmute. You can all unmute yourselves. And if you feel like sharing something with us about Carlos, a fond memory, how you met, some shenanigans, some good times, feel free to do so.
Okay, I'm going to dive in. So I'm going to
Go.
start by, am I there? Are you listening? Am I on?
Yes, we see you, John.
Okay, so I
Yes.
just before I tell you my memory of Carlos, I just tell you the Saturday that before he passed, I went to Brooklyn to this little event that they're having over somewhere downtown, and I think it's 6th Street and
And Third Avenue.
2nd Avenue, somewhere over there. Anyway, as I'm driving there, I grew up in Brooklyn, but I live in Jersey now, and I'm driving through Brooklyn, and I turn the corner and I see this poster, and I look at the poster, and I said, "Oh my God, there goes Kim Lightfoot on this huge poster." But then I looked again and I saw it was James Harden. So when I realized it was James Harden, I thought of the fact that Kim and Carlos are good friends, and that I'd never had that conversation with Kim about the connection we have with Carlos. And I said, I've got to call Carlos and tell Carlos the story about me mistaking James Harden for Kim Lightfoot. So at the party, the whole time I kept thinking about Carlos, and they played a couple of songs that kind of reminded me. They weren't, but I just kept thinking that Saturday that I had to call him, but I never had the opportunity, and I feel sorry about that. But I met Carlos. I played basketball in high school, and I was in a prep school in North Carolina. And when in that time, I met some of the guys on the team were from Brownsville. So when I came back from school, I immediately went out to Brownsville to play basketball. That's where I was hanging out with these guys, and I hung out with a couple of guys who one was a twin, and I played basketball with this one twin, and the twin brother was a close friend of Carlos's. So when I went into this guy's house after playing basketball, I think, I'm not sure, I can't remember now. I know it was Booby, it was Carlos, and I always confused whether it was Daryl or Derek, but one of them was Carlos's friend. Harry will straighten me out at some point. Anyway, I go into the house and I hear this woman making this strange sound on this song. And I'm sitting in the other room with the brother, and I'm listening to this music, and I'm like, what is that? I never heard this sound before. What is this? And I get up and I say, what the hell are they listening to? And he says, oh, that's, these guys, they listen to music, blah, blah, blah. I says, wait a minute, I got to go ask. Anyway, I go in and I said, who is this? And Carlos says, this is Donna Summer. And I go, Donna Summer? And he says, yeah, you don't know who Donna Summer? I was like, obviously I don't. And so he says, well, and I said, he says, I have a lot of stuff. So anyway, I left the room with my buddies and I went in and I'm sitting with Carlos and them. And Carlos starts talking about music. And the one thing that I will always say about Carlos, if he had any ulterior motives of any kind, it would be neutralized if you started talking about music. And
Ladies and gentlemen, please mute yourselves if you're not the one speaking right now.
And so right away, the relationship started. And he started telling me about, oh, I know about this song and this song. Do you know this person? I didn't know. Eventually, he was living in the same building of my childhood girlfriend. And one day when I went in to see her, he was coming out and he said to me, oh, I live on the second, I think it was the second floor. He says, you should come to my house sometimes. I got plenty of music to listen to. So most days before I went upstairs to see my little girlfriend, I would stop over at his house. And he would play, Carlos turned me on to Lenny Williams, Prince, Donna Summer. I mean, it just goes on and on. And I used to sit in this house for hours on end. My girlfriend used to say to me afterwards, where the hell were you? Because I'd tell her I'd come to her house at 6 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, I'm still listening to music with Carlos. And so eventually he started talking about Reed Street and Larry Levan. At the time, Reed Street was closed. And he said, well, there's this place called Gallery and Nicky Siano. So, it took me a little while to get the courage, but eventually I said, okay, let's go. So he took me to the Gallery. He was always the most gracious host. Very instructive. He took us to the Gallery. He left us alone. He left us alone. He went and did his thing. A couple of hours later, Nicky Siano come running across dressed like Diana Ross, which was pretty jarring. At the end of the night, he came, he took us home. And that was basically it. From that point on, when he took me to the Gallery, my life changed. I stopped hanging out with the guys I was hanging out with. I stopped going to those straight clubs where you had to go across the room and ask the girl to dance. I stopped wearing suits to go to clubs. I stopped doing all of that. And, I didn't spend a lot of time with Carlos as I got older because we had different lifestyles. But whenever I saw Carlos, he was always the same as the first day I met him. And
hey, Tommy, can you close your door, please?
Hey, can you mute yourself?
Sometimes it's sad that we have to come to appreciate and respect somebody after they're gone. But, the best thing I can say is that, it's better being respected at some point than at no point. So, he was a wonderful, wonderful person, and he made a real big difference in my life. So, I'm just happy to be part of this to help get him what he needs. So
Thanks, John.
that's all I have to say.
Said it.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, thank you. And thank you to everybody who's joining us here. If you look in the chat, you'll see that we have a donation link to support Carlos Sanchez's funeral services. So please, if you can give anything, please do. And I'm gonna go on mute because the freaking sirens in the background.
And while she's going on mute, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit play on that video and let's see how this goes.
Well, President, yeah, that's good. Okay. A little bass in my voice. But I still can't give it in my S sound. Listen. Get me so close from the you can't take us let's move further back. My first question to you. Charisma. Well, I didn't catch these DJs at a lot of the clubs. I didn't go to a lot of the clubs. I used to catch them like out in the parks or at the beach. Well, at that time, I was a student in music in our high school, so I was a music major, voice major, studying music theory. So there was a DJ in my neighborhood by the name of Paul Baggy, and he used to give parties at his house in the Atlantic Towers in Brownsville. And he used to buy nothing but albums, and he had a mixer and 2 turntables. I was intrigued by that because he had a vast record collection, just like my original mentor. You know, he's the person that got me into actually physically getting on the turntables. And he used to play for parties for Richard Long. And Richard Long was the sound guy who created speakers for the gallery and also later on the garage. And they were playing stuff I've never heard. And me being musically inclined, it just like permeated my whole existence. You know, the music just took me away, and I let it. Well, there was the loft, and that was David Mancuso's loft, and there was the gallery. But there were clubs like the Tambourine. There were clubs like the Duke. You know, the Duke was really the first club in the village that I heard superstition in, and I heard this enormous sound coming from the street, and I said, "Where is that coming from?" And we went downstairs into the Duke, which is now Cafe Wa. You know, and we went down there, and they had these voices, they had the speakers, and this DJ had these turntables, and I was like amazed at the sound that was coming out of there. So there were clubs like that people were going to on the regular. There was Electric Circus that had big sound systems and the spinning light bulb, and you know, like what we call now the discotheque era. Before it was disco, right? So you played soulful R&B, and everything was on 45s. There were no 12 inches, but it was the gallery I used to go to. I used to hear stuff like that for the love of money, and for, you know, the Soul Train theme, and you know, all that Philly stuff. You know, the group Impact and Blue Magic. We were dancing off those records. Living for the City. We was dancing off those records on a club level there, and it was people there like Frankie Knuckles and Larry LeMan. We were all students of that camp. I remember Larry LeMan's a good friend of mine, and I used to be in the garage open, you know, every week. You know, even before that, I helped Larry put the system together in a small room and help organize his records. And I was really close to him. He really trusted my ears in terms of music. And at the same time, I was playing at Leviticus, you know, which is a straight bar in on 33rd Street. So I had you know, the touch of both worlds. Because I was a club head and I went out to the club every week, it really wasn't a lot of radio DJs. I listened to BLS, and then when Kiss came along, you know, I became a Kiss reporter through Billboard. I was a Billboard reporter, so naturally Kiss wanted all the Billboard reporters to be a part of, you know, what they were pushing in radio. So I became a Billboard reporter, but I was working at Leviticus, and I was doing the garage, and you know, I was a part of that whole machine at that time. Frankie Rockwell. I love to speak in voice. I love he spoke clearly. He was articulate, and he just played the right kind of music. He was up on what was going on during that time, and he was pushing the type of music that I was familiar with. I mean, he made us dance, you know, a little bit more harder. It was that generation. That music was now at that time, right? You know, and when you went out to the clubs, and there was a lot of clubs in those days. There were more different kinds of clubs. There was Zanzibar in Jersey. There was like you can go to a dozen clubs in one night that was playing that type of music. It was surreal. You know, that's the only word I could use. You know, it was new. It was fresh. I was traveling Europe. I was doing gigs, doing the music I was doing, and I was happy with that. This is Carlos Sanchez checking out.
It's Carlos Sanchez, and you're checking out Behind the Mic.
Oh, that's the one. Behind the Mic. I want to make sure you do good edits on me now.
Yo, man, don't start that.
I want good edits. I haven't seen the edited version now.
Stop it.
You think I don't know? You have me looking crazy on TV. Why you write like a doctor, man? I can't read that shit.
So thank you everybody again for joining us for Bedtime Stories. That's a little clip that was sent to Red, some recent footage for, oh man, that siren finally stopped. Some recent footage. I'm gonna ask everybody to unmute, but please let's do one at a time. And if you're not speaking, you can just give some respect to the person that's speaking. The outtakes are everything in the chat. You'll find a donation link for you to donate towards Carlos's funeral services. So if there's anything that you can give, please give. And anyone who wants to share a story at this time about Carlos, please do so.
I'd like to do one. I'm Mike. I'm the one who shot the video with Carlos. Me and him, we filmed that the documentary. We were doing a documentary on Carlos's life, and everybody knows Carlos. He wanted it to be an amazing project, and we filmed that about maybe 6 or 7 years ago in my office, so at Sony Music, and it's about an hour and a half. So I just gave everybody a little sample of what we had put together, and I just wanted to share with everybody here who loved Carlos, who are friends, family, fans, because how passionate he was and the type of individual he was. Is, you know, I haven't met two beings in my life like that. So to see Carlos to try to do a drop and to have him mess up about 30 times, I thought it would be pretty comical to share that too and add a little sense of laughter to this such a tragic situation. But yes, and anything we can do with the footage, anybody who needs it, I sent it to Red, I sent it to Perry. Please, you know, grab the link, post it. Let's keep his memory alive as long, you know, indefinitely. And the funny thing behind the making of that film project is that Carlos could not read. He didn't have his glasses. I'm going to give the funny part of it. He didn't have his glasses on. So we kept holding up cue cards for him to read the closing part. He did it about 30 times and never got it right. And he said, Mike, I'm not going to show nobody that. And he said, because if you do, I'm going to kill you. So Carlos, I apologize that I showed everybody that, but I thought that was pretty funny. And that's probably, you know, our 25-year friendship was an amazing friendship, and, you know, he will be dearly missed.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to share some stories?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. This is Sharon. Red and Cynthia, thank you for putting this together. I'm not going to be long. I just want to say hi to Nick, Perry, and Fred. I love you guys. You know, there's a picture of Carlos. I don't know, Nick might know, or Perry might know, or Fred might know. There's a picture of Carlos in drags, and I would love to see that picture again. For you guys that know and don't know, Carlos was very, very talented. He wore many hats, and he was also a graphic designer. And he, for the last 4 years, he designed James Saunders and I boat ride flyers. And he, you know, we would go to his house, James and I, and he was a perfectionist to the T. Carlos called me last Saturday. I still have the time in my phone. He called me last Saturday at 1:49 p.m. And, you know, I was running around so busy. And I said that I would call him tomorrow, which was Sunday. And, you know, I got up Sunday morning, had my coffee, and was, you know, about to call him. And I got the call. And I just want to say that, you know, I'm still wondering.
See, my camera's now.
I'm still wondering what we were going to kiki about. I'm still wondering, why was he calling me? I beat myself up a little bit. That I didn't call him back. And, I talked about it, and I was told not to beat myself up. And I just want to say, may he rest in peace, and I'm going to miss him. And thank you again, Red and Cynthia, for putting this together.
Love you, Sharon. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not the person speaking right now, we ask that you mute yourselves.
I would like to say something.
Go for it.
So as a young whippersnapper coming up, I went to Baruch College.
One moment, Disciple.
You got it's iPad. Oh, he just
Yeah,
muted.
iPad Booby, whoever you are, please. I muted you. Thank you. Disciple, continue. We can hear you, Disciple, continue.
So as a young whippersnapper going to college, this guy Arthur from Baruch College, he introduced me to Carlos at the Sound Factory. And at the time, Carlos was working around the record shops. We know him for working at Disco Rama and so forth in Downtown Records, right? So when I come into the store, he looking at me like I'm straight jailbait, like I'm fresh meat. Because obviously he knows and he can sense this guy's a vinyl junkie. So he said, remember that record that DJ played? I said, yeah, I was looking for that record, Carlos. And Carlos would play that record. And I said, I'm only going to pay $20 worth of stuff. I'm only going to buy $20 worth of stuff. But Carlos Sanchez, man, listen, by the time he was through with me, he took my lunch money and I was trying to figure out, well, maybe Willie Ninja let me in the club for free. Because he took all my money, basically dealing with these records. And that's how much of an impeccable taste that he had in music. It was really beautiful. And so I got hooked on how he sold music at these places and the ability that he had. And so through the years, I've always been connected to him based on his musical taste. House music has the ability to break down a lot of different boundaries. And so, after everything was gone and he was no longer really working and doing those jobs anymore, we still shared music. And I came to his house one day and I said, hey, man, I still want to share music with you because we have this great connection. And people always rave about how well he played at Leviticus and Save the Robot. But, the places, bars like Starlight and 667 and those places where he played, those to me were some of his best sets that I've ever heard as a DJ. He was an amazing DJ. And I was so happy to have played with him and done so much with him to contribute it. One of the things about Carlos Sanchez is that he was a motivator. He knew how to motivate you. When you were down, he knew how to make you feel good. And those kind of efforts that he's made, it has helped break down so many boundaries. His contribution to house music is impeccable because of how he's able to reach the individual. And even if the individual is feeling some kind of way about themselves, he'll still come and check on you. I'm DJing at the bakery in Williamsburg recently, 3 weeks ago. And he comes down with muscle cars and they come out on a regular basis to come and they say, hey, we want to hear some music, we'll buy some cake, whatever. But we always smell and understand each other's music. And it's beautiful, the connection that we have. So tonight I celebrate him because of the beautiful connection that we had and the beautiful music that he shared with thousands upon thousands of people and broke down walls, even with everybody, with every breed, every color, every race, every gender. Carlos Sanchez was that dude. He was that man, and we shared that beautiful connection. And I wouldn't have it any other way. He was a beautiful, beautiful individual. And I'll never forget him as long as I live. And it's because of him that, I had the opportunity to play at Starlight. I had the opportunity to play at different venues, doing Langston's and so forth with him, and sharing that connection that he has because of his impeccable musical taste. I mean, the first time I heard Trina My Joy was by him. You know, he knew how to break records for audience, and he had been doing it for such a long time, and he had touched so many people with him. So that's my story that I shared him. You know, he turned me out on a record store front, and it got me addicted to the music that he spun. And that's why he was in such demand as a record buyer and then as a tastemaker spinner. That's what I got to say.
Well, you said it.
Yeah.
Thanks, disciple.
As always.
I'm going to unmute everybody. The next person that would like to speak, let us know.
Yeah, I'll speak.
Hi. Hey, it's Etheria. Can I go? Hi.
Wait, hold on, Letheria.
Blessings, everybody.
Letheria, one moment. The gentleman was speaking. You can speak after him, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm hearing feedback.
I'm getting ready to mute everybody and unmute you, Galaxy S10. Guys, if you're not the one speaking right now, we're going to ask that you mute yourselves.
So one of the
Okay.
ways that we,
That's it. I got it. Sorry, Sen.
that's okay. I just want to say one of the ways that we can manage this a little bit better so that it's easier. If you want to say something, just go across and click raise your hand. And then this way we know that you're going to be wanting to speak. And when it comes time or there's the next opening, we'll allow the next people to speak like that. So that this way we're not having to deal with all the feedback and interrupting. Okay.
And also, if you did speak already, you don't have to stay here. You can continue watching on Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And, you know, but that's a choice. Everybody's welcome to stay.
Yes. All right.
Right.
So, please.
Galaxy S10, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but I'm going to give you the floor, sir.
You're about to learn my name. It's an honor to be here. I'm Lamont Hardy. I met Carlos probably in the late 80s, early 90s. He was doing distribution for one of them record labels. I couldn't even remember. I think it was located on Green Street. I want to say downtown 161 or one something. I can't remember, but I was at the office picking up records. But my most fondest memory of Carlos was, I would have to say around 2003. I was going through a divorce. I'm gonna speak on him as personally, as a man. We're gonna hear so many things about him in the music industry, and he's an icon, well deserved. But on a personal note, I was going through a divorce, a very, very, very bad divorce. This was around probably from 2002 to 2004. I mean, I lost my house, I lost my cars, I lost everything. And Carlos would always check up on me. He would call me to make sure I was okay. He said, come on, Lamont, get dressed, meet me here, we're gonna go out. And I'll be honest with you, if it wasn't for that shoulder to lean on, for Carlos, and it was my divorce that brought us even closer as friends. But he heard I was getting a divorce, and he took it upon himself just to reach out, just to make sure that I was okay. And in this industry that we call music, it's so hard to find someone who's genuine, a friend who's genuine, who will honestly ask nothing in return but true friendship. And that was Carlos. That was Carlos. And if it wasn't for Carlos, I don't know how I would have gotten through it by the grace of God, but God must have sent him to help me get through it. Because it was him. It was between him and Camacho. You guys know Camacho. The two of them helped me get through my divorce. And ever since then, myself and Carlos, we was tight. Just about a year ago, we went to church together. He invited me to go to church with him. He wanted somebody to go with him. He said, come on, let's go to church. Because he found out that I became a minister, and then I gave my life to Christ. So he said, come on, I want you to go to church with me. I want you to meet my pastor friend. We went to church. And just like many of you, I spoke to him maybe a week before he passed, and he was so excited that he told me he got it. You know, they they found, a match for him. And I said, great. We started talking the plans we was going to make. And then when I found out through social media. I honestly had to call his phone to find out if it was true. I called several times. I didn't get an answer. So then I called somebody else and they told me, yeah. And all I have to say is life is precious. Every day that we wake up and God put breath in our lungs, it's a gift. It's a gift. And we need to go to bed thanking him. And we need to be waking up thanking God for this gift that we call life. Because at any moment, it could be one of us. So I just thank God that, he brought Carlos into our life. He shared his son with us. And his son was so generous to share his talents with us. Just like Disciple said, he was an icon and he touched him in his career. And Carlos has touched so many others. He's the true unsung hero, So Carlos, we love you. I thank you for being in my life. I thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I just want to say one thing before I unmute Letheria. It's something that I say to a lot of people, as we start losing more and more people that are around us, there are millions of circumstances that could have existed where you could not have known this person or this person could not have touched you. And what we should remember is that we're all made up of our life experiences, right? Every person that we've interacted with, every conversation we've had, they make us who we are. So everybody in this room right now has Carlos in them. Everybody. We all have Carlos in us. Because he touched us each by being a part of our lives, even if it was only through music, even if it was only through a dance floor, even whatever it was, whatever moment it was, he's a part of you always. So please cherish that. All right, I want to unmute Letheria since she said she was next.
Thank you for that, Sandra. Definitely in my DNA. I just want to say I have a message from Rodney who Rodney is the father of my child.
Letheria, can you hear me?
Letheria, I need you to lower.
No, that's me. Hold up. Because Rodney sent me a recorded message. Yeah.
Cynthia, you're muted.
Hold on.
Device, I need you to lower it.
Okay. Do you hear Rodney talking?
Not really, but you have something on behind you.
Cynthia.
It sounds like it's too loud.
But there's something on behind you that we hear.
All right, she's stuck. I'm going to take it upon myself.
Okay, so
hold on a minute.
Rodney called me and left a long voice message.
Okay.
I know. I know. Listen for 1 second. It's a pre-recorded message for Carlos.
We can't hear it, Letheria.
I'm gonna try to make this short and sweet. But thank you so much for interpreting this message, and I hope you give it to the audience.
Okay. Unfortunately, it sounds like Letheria was trying to share a pre-recorded message from Carl. us. But because it's on another device and it sounds strange, I know you all heard how it sounded a little strange and we were having difficulty hearing it. So with that, I'm gonna just move on to Perry, and I've asked you to unmute since you had your hand raised here, Perry.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I'm Perry, and I'm really glad to be here. And I want to thank everybody for doing this. I want to thank you for having this, Cynthia. I don't know where to start because thank you, Sharon. I think if Carlos was calling you on Saturday, he just wanted to tell you how much he loved you and how much, you know, you mean to us in this whole thing that you've been providing for us in terms of places to go and things to do, and how much you helped him, you know, Mary and the rest of us. We're like a little family within a family. And Carlos was that dude, you know. Since he's no longer with us, I can just kind of tell you exactly what he meant to me. I met Carlos, I was playing at a club in Brooklyn, and he sashayed across the floor, all 6'4" of him, all very thin. And the owner asked if he could play a couple of songs, and he did, and he shut the place down. And if he was straight, I would have probably wanted to fight with him. But because he was gay, I took it like, well, you know, this is an industry that's owned and operated, you know, and he shut me down. He invited me to his house. I started getting a lot of music from him. And I was about 31 years old, and I wanted to transition. I wanted to do something different. I got into music journalism. So I called Carlos as a personal favor and said, if I ever need to come back, would you help me? And he told me yes. And but I don't know how many people in this room knew this. You know, like, I'm in this room with a lot of people who can share a lot of stories, and Booby's here. And there are a lot of people that know Carlos, but I got to know Carlos differently because I don't know what I meant to him, but I find out now the longer he's been away, and it's only been 9 days. I didn't know how close we were because to me, Carlos had 10,000 friends. And when he talked, we got together. But I can tell you some crazy stories, but I'll say this. Carlos was often sick, often. Carlos would call me up and say, I'm going to the hospital. He said, I'm going on vacation. I said, where to? He said, I'm going to the hospital. I'm going to go in on Thursday. I'll probably be back on Monday. And I never heard anybody talk like that before. And I used to wonder, you know, like how easy it was for him to go into the hospital. Carlos was very in tune with what he was feeling. So he would go into the hospital and then he'd call me. Now, you know, I'm a man, you know, he called me, Perry, you know, the food here is terrible. Now here comes the nonsense, right? The food here is terrible. And then he start that, really don't like this food and this medicine they got me on, and I would just crumble. And I go, where you at? And then he tell me where he is. Now he gonna also text me a shopping list. So I'd have to go and and the first order is Cats on Houston. Go to Cats, get him. Now he's specific on pickles. He's specific on everything. And I go there mumbling, mad as hell. But he taught me something 32 years ago. He taught me what a friend is. See, he taught me what true friendship was. I didn't like what I was doing. I hated, you know, back then, nobody had no cell phone. So if he called, I couldn't even not answer. He'd call me, hey, Perry, the food. And I go, here we go with this shit again. And I find myself back at the hospital again. Now, I'm 30 years old. People go jail, they go to cemetery. We don't go to hospitals. I wasn't used to this. I had to find out how to be a friend to this man. And let me tell you something, that paid dividends for me because I understood that friendship is not contingent on where the party at. Friendship is based on how you feeling and how you doing, and do you need anything from me? Carlos was not just gay, he was flame on, lipstick on his eyebrows, okay? Sharon was talking about seeing a video of him in drag. I used to take him to parties dressed in drag, and I'd be like, Carlos, do you have to do this to me? You know, but I loved him so much. He was like my brother. and I didn't care. He brought Booby over my house to celebrate, I think, his 50th birthday or 60th birthday. That was crazy too, because Booby had more stories on him than Walt Disney. So it got, I could tell you some stories, but out of all of them, I'm gonna tell you, I got into this industry and I was able to get a job as a journalist and a publisher. And Carlos said, I want to do it too. Carlos' middle name was Me Too. Carlos said, I want to do that too. I want to do that too. So I said, Carlos, I'm going to Germany. We're going to get you some first class tickets. We going to Munich. Carlos was like, oh my God. We go first class to Munich. We almost get thrown off the plane in the air. Carlos can't sit still. Carlos pressing every button on the plane. He got the stewardess going crazy. Then when we land in Munich, they got a fashion show going on in the next building. Now, we're supposed to be doing a trade show. Carlos is next door talking about his whole famous last words, let me live. He ran off to this damn fashion show and left me holding everything. And boy, did we argue over that, but I just knew that he was a special cat and I've never met anybody like him. Never, ever. Carlos had a million friends and he could compartmentalize his life in a way that still strikes me as phenomenal. When Carlos died on Sunday morning, Booby called me at 7 a.m. and I ended up calling a lot of people. And one of the things that struck me was my son cried. My dad died 2 years ago. My son just felt really bad for me. But Carlos had this way of infiltrating your life. He would get to find out about you, what your interests were, what you were about, where you were going. And my son and daughter cried. Carlos been in my house almost every Thanksgiving, and we loved him. Carlos would come over early and make this cucumber iced tea. Nobody ever heard of no shit like that. And it became the hit, okay? I can go on and on and on, but I could tell you this, that I was with him the night before he passed. And I don't know, sitting right here doing this with you guys, I called him and I said, I'm coming over because I got some stuff for you. Carlos loved this hobby. And I dropped this stuff off at his house and I said, I'm not coming upstairs because you be holding people hostage. And he called me at 1:30 in the morning and said, I can't get this thing to come on. I said, not Carlos Sanchez on the 1 and the 2. Don't tell me you don't know how to plug no shit in no more. And we start arguing at 1:30 in the morning. And I'll never forget, when his system turned on and that vinyl hit the record, I said, now we could go to sleep. He said, no, honey, you got to let me live. Those were his final words to me, and they will always ring true because Carlos is living right now with everybody who preceded him, all those hundreds of thousands of friends and families. Carlos survived. Carlos was sick back in the 80s and made it all the way through. He was on every cocktail they could offer him to help him with his health condition. I know because he was a personal friend of mine. Carlos used to talk to me about those kind of things, and I'm honored to be able to share that with you guys today, that friendship ain't about where the party at and what you got on. It's so much deeper than that. It's about how you doing and can I help you? Do you need anything? And that's the difference he made in my life. He taught me how to be a friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry.
Thank you.
Just a quick reminder, this is just exactly what Perry said. One of my sayings is it can't always be a party. So just remember also that we are right now collecting donations to make sure that our friend and brother is laid to rest in the proper way. So there are links under all the things that we're on right now, as well as in the chat here. And Mary, you've been over there getting a lot of laughs with the good memories. So I'm going to go ahead and let you speak because I see you have your hand raised.
Hi, everybody. And oh my gosh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for putting this together. Thank you so much, Perry, and Sharon and Booby. Oh my God. Like Perry said, we are family within a family, community within a community. And yeah, I share a lot of those wonderful, amazing stories that ain't got nothing to do with a party. But real, like, personal, intimate stuff. And I spoke to Carlos on Saturday too. When I left, I just come back from vacation. And it was so interesting because when I was on vacation, sitting at breakfast last week, Tuesday morning, this beautiful black bird came and sat right in the window with us. And I said to my sweetie, I said, honey, that's a sign. And the bird just sat there. And that was the same day that Carlos posted a picture of himself with that bird cage on his face. 1 minute, he said, now you see me, now you don't. Same day, he posted that picture on Facebook. And I didn't see that picture until later on. But when we got home on Friday, I left New York early Saturday morning. And as soon as I crossed that George Washington Bridge going back to Pennsylvania, he called me. And we talked the whole ride. I was sitting in my driveway for a whole nother half an hour, talking. We laughed, we talked, shooting shit like we always do. Talked about the plans for his kidney transplant, talked about his donor, talked about how grateful we were. We were on the phone laughing and crying, just always what we would always do. And so, I don't know, man. Somebody from Philadelphia called me to tell me that he was gone. I was like, no, hold up, hang up. I'll be back. I'll call you back. I called Perry immediately because I know I'm going to get the right story, the true story. And then Perry told me. And I just fucking fell apart. I couldn't even get out of my bed for 3 days after that. When my husband was diagnosed with cancer, Perry and Carlos didn't just come once. They came and they kept coming, and they brought a caravan time after time after time. That's what Perry's talking about. He ain't talking about no party. He's talking about friends that will run down into the valley to bring whatever you need and will stay with you and love you and help you and just wrap you and keep you covered and protected. And that's what friends do. And Carlos was that guy. And when my husband passed, he just grabbed me up like this. Grabbed me up. It's like, come on, boo-boo. You're just going to be mine now. And he became my husband. And I do remember that picture, Sharon, him dressed as Carla. And I tell you, man, just so many good, sweet memories. Just, oh my God, I will spend the rest of my life just giggling to myself. You know what I mean? Just giggling and holding all of those sweet, precious moments. The music, I mean, that's a no-brainer. We all know that. But I'm telling you, man, a heart of gold. The nights that I would sleep on his couch because I just couldn't go home. You know, the time that he would put on music and just take me on a journey, man. I'd be in tears because it would just bring back so many memories of where you have gone and been in your lifetime. He would take you there with the music, you know. Yeah, that was my buddy. That was my pal, my brother, my friend. And I will never, as long as I live, ever forget him. He's with me here always, always, with all of us, always. Because he touched, like Perry said, 10,000 friends from all over the world. And I'm just so grateful for you guys. Thank you for doing this. Thank you so much. Just love and respect always. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you for giving us a name, Carla. So now we have a name, ladies and gentlemen. This name keeps coming up. This name came up when I received my phone call. I also got a phone call at 7 a.m. And that name, it wasn't Booby, it was just Boo. but I understand that he is here with us now, so I'm gonna go ahead and
Muted. I just unmuted him, so.
the floor.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share this with you. Carlos. I have so many stories about Carlos, but I'm going to talk about this first one, the first time I ever laid eyes on him. Carlos was my friend for about 48 or 49 years. The first time seeing Carlos, I remember I was in the projects. We both lived in the same projects. And he was friends with my sister. And I was sitting on the bench and he came down the walkway and he had on Daisy Duke shorts and like 5-inch platform heels. And like Perry said, he was 6'4". And I was watching him and I'd never seen anything like it in my life. And I said, who the hell is that? So we became friends with my sister and I didn't like him. I didn't like the way he was dressed. I thought he was outrageous. I said, what is that? How could you have him as a friend? Da, 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 da. So I didn't really connect with him, but he would come upstairs to see my sister. He'd always be in the house. He made it his business for me to get to like him. And eventually I did. We went and explored everything together. The first club I remember me and him going to was the Bonsoir in the Village. Downstairs, and Carlos saw 3 turntables. And he was amazed at that. We had a good friend named Candy, and she lived on Franklin and Fulton, and all the gay kids knew Candy. She used to give balls, and she was very popular. So she would give these parties, and Carlos would play for the parties. And I remember when he started playing the 3 turntables in the closet. He used to be in the closet playing music and everybody else would be on the outside. And I mean, it was probably 150 people in a 3-room apartment on the staircase outside the building, coming every time he played at a party. I knew from the beginning, Carlos was special. I knew that. I knew because everything he did was extra. And it caught everybody's attention. Everything he did, the way he dressed, the way he played music, the way he sang, everything. We used to sit out on the park bench all night, a bunch of us, and laugh and talk when we would come from the clubs or were going to the clubs. Carlos was just an amazing guy, and we were amazing friends. We would fight, we would stop speaking, we would not get along sometimes, but through all of that, we loved one another. I remember one time not speaking to him for some months, and every time I saw him, my heart would ache because I was not talking to my friend. I remember it was a friend of ours named Brenda that called me. I was living upstate and me and him weren't speaking at the time. And she called me and told me he was in the hospital and he was sick. And when she told me that, I started crying and I called the hospital and I spoke with him. And from that day, we talked and said that whenever we got angry with one another, we would never go through periods of not speaking to one another. Carlos' accomplishments are many, many, and I always knew that he would accomplish anything he put his heart and his mind to. One of the things we would talk about, lots of things we would talk about, but we would talk about a lot of personal things because we knew each other so well. We knew each other's family, and we just knew personal things about one another. But when he would call me sometimes and he would be a bit off, I would tell him this. This is what I would say to my friend. I was not his fan, I was his friend. He was my friend. He was my brother. My heart is aching right now. I have not been the same since that morning. I would tell Carlos that there's two things on this earth I know. I know one of them is that God works, because I could see it in him. I could see that through all those years of being sick, he was still a soldier, standing here tall and doing and accomplishing all the things that he accomplished. And that the program that we were in, it worked, because it helped him accomplish all the things that he wanted to accomplish. I am gonna miss him like you miss an arm or a leg. I am gonna miss him. I can't even imagine not talking or seeing him again. I can't imagine this, but this is, I do know, I know this, that hopefully one day I will see him again. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say, thank you firstly to everybody who's joining us. If you have just joined us and you would like to share a story, just click on like your name and it'll say raise hand or lower hands, and we will try to get to everybody so that you can share your stories about Carlos. If you can, please be sure to donate toward the services, towards Carlos' services. It looks like we're close to $9,000 here in his GoFundMe so far. So that's wonderful. And I think we're gonna try to give Letheria another chance to speak, but not share a recording right now, since she's been waiting. And then we'll keep moving through the line of folks. Or did we lose her?
No, she's there.
Did you unmute her? Because I can.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Red. Good evening, everybody. My condolences to everybody. What I was trying to convey earlier was a message from, can you guys hear me? Was a message from
poor connection.
The reason why I know Carlos, which is can you hear me?
Letheria, your connection is really bad. So maybe if you could take your phone and go somewhere else. So
There's a weird connection.
Really bad.
Well, that sucks. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but you're going in and out.
All right. I'm gonna hit you on my phone.
Okay. So while Letheria does that, we're going to move on, and Freddie.
All right.
So
Fred, I've just, I believe I unmuted you, so you can go ahead and speak. Oh, there we go. No, wait.
I'm unmuted. You hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Thank you, Red, and thank you, Sin, for putting this together.
Oh.
And hopefully I could try to cheer myself up, because after hearing Booby, that just made me extra sad. But when he was sharing, all I thought about was seeing him in a party, and I was like trying to remember how I met him, and it was through David, Sharon, and I think Gary was on the line when they used to do this party at Club Love, I believe, Sharon and David. And Carlos used to always be the DJ. And then I used to always stand by the DJ booth and just watch him spin. And this is before I was trying to be a promoter or doing any type of parties. And we became Facebook friends. We would also hang out on Saturday nights. We would eat at Manitou's restaurant on Bleecker Street. And I'm thinking like David is my big brother and Carlos was like the uncle of the bunch. And then he would see me on Facebook promoting parties that I was doing. And he was like, well, I'm gonna come to one of your parties one time, one of these nights. And he actually did come once, I believe, when I was doing a party in Chelsea. And like throughout the years, I would always see Carlos. He was always so humble, so nice and so sweet. And maybe about a little more than a month ago, we were doing an in-store and I was telling him about these DJs, the Muscle Cars, Brandon, the guy who is on the GoFundMe. And he was like, oh, those are like my little sons. And he was like, you know, those are his proteges and he's mentoring them and they're going to dinner for his birthday. And I'm like, okay, I love these DJs, like amazing DJs. And that was a little more than a month ago, right, Red, if I'm not mistaken, when they did the Cosmic Art in-store. And then I got the message that he passed away. And I was like, I have to just confirm this. And I had to call David on Sunday morning. And David was like, yeah, it's true. And what makes it extra weird, because right before this pandemic, another one of some of our mutual friends had a similar incident where he slipped down a flight of stairs and passed away right before the pandemic, the lockdown. So I was like, what the hell? Like, what's going on here? But it gave me the understanding about how unpredictable life is. And when Booby was just sharing about like not talking to people and holding on to stuff, not really understanding how precious friendships are, and you are here today and you don't know what's promised tomorrow. So now I have to like really understand that life is so short and I have to value the people who are in my life and not take them for granted, because sometimes I get so busy that I don't call people. I don't tell them that I love them and how much they mean to me. And like, I know he felt it whenever I would see him. It was just a bond that I can't explain, but it would be a bond like a Sharon or David or Cynthia or Red, where I don't have to speak to you on the phone every day or every week. But when I see you, it's just like a genuine love there. And when I was speaking to somebody else and they were telling me, you know, Carlos was really the dude when it comes to music. And a lot of people just don't understand how important he is to our scene. I really didn't know how far back his track record as far as DJing went. And now I'm like even learning more today about how amazing of a DJ he was. But he was always so humble. I never got that air that he thought that he was the shit. But apparently he was something when it comes to back in the day. I missed the garage, so I didn't get a chance to hear him spin. And had it not been for David and Sharon doing those parties, more than likely I wouldn't have been able to experience him on an intimate level. And I'm just happy that I did get a chance to meet him. I would miss him. And I just appreciate everybody for coming out and sharing and all that good stuff. And I hope everybody, you know, it's gonna be rough for many, but I'm just trying to remember all the good times that I had when I would see him and try not to like really get too in my head about what happened to him. And thank you.
Thank you, Freddie.
Thank you.
If you want to hear some history straight from Carlos's mouth, you can also go to the YouTube page where Bedtime Stories is. We had Carlos on as a guest with Ian Friday, Red and myself, and he told lots of little good gems about his history as
and
well.
It wasn't long ago. My understanding is that it would have been that it was his last interview. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We'll share the link when this is all over.
Yes.
I just want to say something really quickly because it connects a lot of different things. When Carlos was on, well, actually when John Best, who spoke earlier, was on, he told a little story about how Carlos, you know, took him to the club. And Carlos mentioned that same thing, which is just a little connect the dots that happened in my head of where Carlos took John Best took Timmy Regisford did Shelter. So at the end of the day, if you really break it down, without Carlos, and I'm just gonna leave that right there.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave that right there.
Yeah.
KO, you've had your hand up, so I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you.
I'm muted. Oh, you just muted him again.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. He's been waiting patiently.
He's been waiting patiently.
And you can unmute. Oh, I just muted you again by accident.
I got it.
Unmute.
Look, there we go. Y'all
There
hear
we
me?
go.
Hey. I'm the new Jack of the crew. Y'all see me around. What's up, Red? I see Fred is in here. I don't know everybody. I see Nick, but Carlos is like my uncle, and I'm like y'all. I think some of y'all know that I worked at 667, where Carlos did a party with Fred Pierce on Sunday nights, and I was the manager of that club. And he taught me so much. You know what I'm saying? So as a youngin, you know, new to the scene, you know, I remember the first time I saw Carlos, I didn't know who he was. I was working at Emotive Records. No, I think I was at King Street at the time, whatever. But I walked into Central Fly and I saw this big dude hunched over the turntables. And I'm like, oh, look, he's tall like me. I can do that too. This is before I was even like a DJ, like, or aspiring to be. So that was my first impression of him, because I was like, oh, he's tall and he's big. He's like me. And I was like, yeah. So that was in like 96, whatever. I didn't know who he was. And then my boy who I was with, he knew everything. He was like, oh, that's Carlos Sanchez. You know, you get the people that tell you about the scene or whatever. So years later, I wind up working at 667. And I'm running the joint. And I only did Wednesdays and Saturday nights, but then Marcus Rice, he told me I had to work Sundays. I had to work the Sunday party. And so he's like, oh, it's Fred and it's Carlos and whatever. But long story short, Carlos became my uncle. Like, just like he just took care of me. Like, we would talk about records. And then when Marcus passed, Carlos was the one who comforted me. You know what I'm saying? Carlos, he lived around the corner from me, actually, when I lived on Madison between Classen and Franklin. And I would go to his house. And he was like, look at these speakers, KO. And like, he's like, no, you got to see it. You got to listen to this record. And he was like, yo, you got to close your eyes. I was like, oh, this dude is really dope. Like, he's like, this is a person like me. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm from Westchester. I'm from upstate. I'm from up here. I was a hip hop head. You understand what I'm saying? But I loved house music, and I moved to New York City to get these experiences. So I say all that to say, me and Carlos were born. We found out we're born a day apart. He's February 18th. I'm February 19th. So since like early 2000, we would call each other on our birthdays, every birthday. So I just spoke to him, you see. Then a couple years ago, we started doing parties at Black Flamingo with him. We did the benefit for him, you know, to raise money to get his kidney. And we would just crew for like the past, like, you know, 3 or 4 years. And I don't know if you'll know about Waze, but he loved Waze. Somebody mentioned Manitou. I forgot he totally brought me there. You know, after one night of hanging out at 667 or whatever, he was like, this is my favorite diner, KO. I was like, all right, bet. So, you know, I miss Carlos. When I found out Sunday, I actually had to call his phone too. And I kind of got mad at the person who told me. I was like, I didn't believe it. You know what I'm saying? So, as I said, I'm the new Jack, whatever, but Carlos meant a lot to me. You know, everything y'all are talking about, that's what he showed me. So I always take that and I want to pass that on. So, you know, muscle cars, we all work together. So, you know, when we were doing the thing at Black Flamingo, like, so someone just said muscle cars and he took them under his wing. But it's like he had also taken me under his wing. You know what I'm saying? And then I was passing out onto muscle cars, and then we all met. So Carlos was about community to me, you know, and I'm not going to take up too much time, but thank you for doing this, Red. Thank you for doing this, Cynthia Rose. And I appreciate hearing all the stories about my Uncle Carlos. And with that, I'm gonna go back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you know, this is difficult because, you know, we all have our memories and we all care, but it's so important that we can be together and be here for each other at every time, not the disco times, not only the fun times, but the real times that everybody's talking about. And so with that, I'm going to give Nick.
He's already unmuted.
All right.
Well, he was.
Well, there we go. Both of us trying to do the same shit. So, Nick.
There you go, Nick. Unmute yourself and you have the floor.
Hey, everybody. So I want to thank you for putting this on. David called me to tell me to join us, and at first I didn't want to do it. I was like, they don't know Carlos like I know Carlos, and how, you know, and I was just some ownership nonsense, and I'm so glad I'm here. And I have to remember, you know, like the only thing finer than Carlos's record collection was his collection of friends. He was a connoisseur of people. And there's some people on here, Boobie and Perry and KO. You know, you never know how people think about you, but I will tell you, there wasn't a conversation that went by that he didn't bring your names up. And just he adored all of you. He adored everybody in here tonight, but he talked about you guys a lot. He talked about John Best a lot. He talked about Fred a lot, and David and Sharon and all of us. You know, like Carlos was really into praising his friends and talking, you know, about his friends, you know. And there were moments, you know, I can honestly say he really didn't have a lot of bad things to say about people. And I always like that about him, because that's the exact opposite of me, you know. So if you know me, you know that sometimes I don't have the kindest words to say, but he would always correct me on that. But Carlos was a friend that I'd call him for advice and we'd end up in an argument. You know, that's the kind of friendship that we had. I got to see all sides of Carlos. And, you know, Boobie, my heart goes out to you. If anybody doesn't know, Boobie was the last person for Carlos to speak to. And it's only befitting that he's here tonight. Boobie, you were his brother, his dearest friend. He called me on many a day when you guys fought. I'm not talking to him no more. And I was like, you know, for a couple of weeks you won't, but then you know, then you guys would just get back, and it was like you didn't miss a moment. So I do have a funny story, KO, about 667 that I remember that Carlos never let me forget. So it was Carlos's, I believe it was his, I don't know if it was his 50th birthday, but it was a birthday party we were having for Carlos at 667. And one of our friends, Tony, was doing the balloons. And I'm an art director by trade, so I'm very controlling about that. And I don't know what was on my mind. I came in that night storming because he didn't have the right color scheme for the balloons or whatever. And I decided to get rid of some of the balloons, and I was really being beside myself. And to the point where, you know, Tony got quite angry with me, and we went outside, and I was smoking a cigarette, and I had some unkind words to say to him, and he clocked me on the street. And Carlos walked in on it while I got knocked. And I'd like to say that I fell and slipped on the ice, but really, Tony knocked me, right? And I never will forget, Carlos called me the next day and said to me, "Girl, that was the greatest gift you gave me last night. Nobody could ever give me such a wonderful gift as that." And so like that was something that we always used to talk about. And the other thing a lot of people don't know is that Carlos had called me 2.5 years ago and told me that someone else had promised to donate a kidney to him. And then they kind of like backed out of it. And he was devastated by that. And it was like so matter of fact at that moment, I was like, oh, you need a kidney? I'll give you mine, you know. And he was like, what? And I went through the whole process. I went through all the blood tests, all the doctors, and privately that was going to be our thing. And I didn't want to make a big public showing of it, but I never will forget on one of the times that I had to see the doctors to have the test. Unfortunately, there was one test that I didn't pass at the very end and I couldn't do it. But during that whole process, he just always was so impressed that I was going to give him the kidney. But I never will forget, he looked at me one day and he was like, bitch, you wouldn't give me $5, but you're going to give me your kidney. And I remember him saying that, and that's the kind of friendship that we had. It was a real friendship. You know, we call each other in the middle of the night and share our, you know, our joys and our sorrows. We share the good times and the bad times. We do a lot of parties together. We do a lot of great parties together. Carlos brought me into throwing parties. He introduced me to Michelle Muez, and we did the Mo Dancing parties years and years and years and years ago. I won't even talk about how long ago it was, but I remember the first time I ever laid eyes on Carlos when he had the dreads and he used to wrap his hair like Erykah Badu. He's already 6'4", and then he would have this, so he would tower over everybody by like 8 feet. And I would just remember how amazing he looked and just how I just wanted to look at him, you know, let alone hear him play. And there were so many times that he would put me onto a record or to a performer. I didn't know who Jill Scott was, and he turned me on to Jill. He was always the first and ahead of everybody else to know like who was like the next big thing. From Gregory Porter to Lettucey to, you know, there were so many people that he turned me on to, like, who is that? And, you know, and he was always like, his love for music was impeccable, you know, beyond compare. And I don't know what I'm gonna do without him. The reality hasn't kicked in. I also don't think I wanted to be here tonight because I didn't want it to be real. Reg, you know what this brings up in memories of who else I'm thinking of right now, you know, because it's that close and it feels that way. So there's a lot, but I got to talk to the Sunday, I got that call at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I got that call from David about this. And for the rest of the day, I started talking to people, and you guys know this, sometimes I just kind of fall out of the scene and nobody knows where I'm at and I'm off doing something and living my life. But I got to talk to so many people that day, and I just was amazed at how many people I was connected to through Carlos, you know, and he was really good about putting people together. Like, he was like, oh, you got to meet this person, you got to meet that person. And he always knew, like, he never referred you to a bad person. It was always like somebody that would be of value in your life. And that was because Carlos was the connective force for so many of us. And I mean, this is a huge loss to all of us. We all have our time on this earth and we all have our earth walk. And when it's done, you know, and that's a part of life. And we have to accept that. And I can hear him tell me that. There were so many times that he was just a voice of reason for me. And I used to tell him that all the time, that, you know, no matter how our conversations would end up, I always would come to him to be the voice of reason, that when I would be off in my head about whatever, he would always kind of center me and make me see the good in something or the fairness in something. He was such a fair dude. He was such a fair human being. He really was. Yeah, in ways that I would almost fault him for it, and, you know, but he would always make me wrong and make me see where seeing the goodness in others is really, really important. And I really don't know who can ever replace, no one can ever replace him. You know, no one can ever replace Carlos, but I'm so grateful that I'm here tonight, because I haven't posted anything on Facebook because I've been too afraid to. I just feel like I'd crumble into pieces if I shared my stories. I pulled my pictures out of me and him, and I put them back away because I couldn't share them. Like, I can't make it real. I just can't be real at the moment. And, you know, and this is the first step towards my accepting the fact that he's not here with us anymore. And I'm so grateful that all of you are here to share your stories, and I can remember Carlos in that way, and it's okay, you know, it's gonna be okay. And he's up there with Boyd, and he's up there with Larry, and he's up there with Frankie, and he's up there with all of them. And, you know, John, I don't know if John is on here, but he used to tell us stories about him, John, and Boyd running together as teenagers, and all of those great stories. And, you know, it's just, it was amazing. So I'm grateful to all of y'all, and that's what I have to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Love you.
Love you
Call
too.
me more. Thanks.
That will.
So David, you are up.
Hi, thank you,
Floor is
Cynthia.
yours.
Okay, thanks, Cynthia. Thanks, Red. I love you guys. Oh my God, I'm getting filled up just with the words, man. You know, the words generosity of the spirit comes to mind when I think of Carlos Sanchez. And I was sitting here laughing when Nick mentioned the people that have transitioned. Could you imagine what that party must be like up there? Freddie Knuckles, and all of these people up there, Larry Levan, and now Carlos Sanchez. Oh my God, I can't imagine what that must be like. You know, I'm glad that Perry shared about Carlos, because Carlos was a beautiful soul, but he was a piece of work sometimes too. And I can say that lovingly. I remember one time James Saunders was having a cruise and it was going to the Bahamas. And I got a call from Carlos. He says, David, guess what? I'm playing on a cruise for James Saunders, and he told me I can bring a guest. And you're the guest that I picked to come with me on this cruise. So I got to the airport, and Carlos had about 2 crates of records plus a steel cabinet that he was carrying. And that shit was so heavy. And I realized that Carlos had invited me on this cruise so I could carry his records. I was so mad with him, but I did it lovingly, you know. Me and Carlos, we both from the projects. We both had dreams. I met Carlos through one of my old roommates in the 1990s. His name was Tony Lopez. And Tony and Carlos were very, very good friends. They grew up together. So I got a chance to know Carlos through my friend, Tony. And we had a lot in common, man. We both worked as legal secretaries for law firms. So Carlos was a hustler, man. He could make a dollar, not just with records, but he just had a vision of just taking care of himself. You know, he was a humble spirit, but such a generous giant. You know, what a class act. What a class act. He taught me about clothes and what to wear and what not to wear, and just how to move and get through the hurdles of life. You know, one thing about Carlos, he had the ability to make you feel like you were the only one in his life. It's just the way he had a conversation. You knew that he was not distracted, that you had every moment of his attention. He listened. You know, it's a funny thing happens when you have health challenges. And when you have health challenges for such a long time, you get kind of scared. And I would hear the fear in Carlos when he came back from dialysis or was worried about the kidney transplant. But that made him appreciate us even more because he wanted each day with us to be special. And that's what I remember about Carlos, his courage, his fight. You know, Sharon and I had the privilege of doing the closing party for the shelter. And I can remember asking, I think it was Nick, maybe it was Nick. I think I asked Nick if he would help me design a flyer. And the main room was going to be played by Sting. And downstairs, we wanted classics. And the shelter had this little area downstairs that they call Mama's Kitchen. So we had Sting International, main floor. And then we had Carlos Sanchez, Mama's Kitchen. Oh, he was furious over that flyer. How dare you put my name in a kitchen? Do you know he made us do the whole flyer over again? I think I spent $400 on the flyer. We had to redo it else he wouldn't play. But that was Carlos, man. That was Carlos. He had a standard. You know, Carlos played our first party. It was a a party up in Harlem on 125th Street and Fifth Avenue, right, Sharon? That party turned out to be one old nasty house party. One old nasty house party. Carlos was the one that got us started. Oh, I miss my friend. Generosity of spirit, of the spirit, generosity of the spirit. Just tonight, look what he's done tonight. He's brought us together. I haven't seen Perry in ages. I haven't seen Red in ages. I'm just meeting Cynthia and, you know, Nick and Booby and Freddie. He brought us all together. Amina, you know, Yvette. It's just his legacy, before I close, his legacy was to fight. His legacy was to have strength. His legacy for me was to keep walking. His legacy is to love, to love, to love each day. You know, because we don't plan our transition just happens. So we have to make each moment, each friend, each phone call, each conference call, each anything important, important. So I keep my friend in my heart, and thank you for allowing me to share my memories with you all tonight. Love you all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Miss you.
Miss you too, Red.
Okay, Yakim,
You are next, Yakim.
I've hit the unmute button.
Hello, family. My name is Yakim. How's everybody? I met Carlos through my wife, my ex-wife, in early recovery. I got like 28 years. I don't know, but I must have met him about 3, 4. I must have had about 3 or 4 years clean now. I come from an era where my age, I come from an era when gay wasn't cool, right? You know, I come from jails where gay is not cool. You know what I mean? And but when I came in this fellowship, I had to embrace people as they are, right? And Carlos is one of the guys that I don't care, wherever I saw him, I would make sure that if I had to cross the room, I would make sure that I gave him a hug, and he hugged me. And times we didn't see each other a lot, right? But times that I saw him, I could really pour my soul out to him, you know. And I don't really do that with a lot of people. But I'm so fortunate that I got some music, because Thursday before last, I just got a stationary bike, you know. So I said, I called him up and I said, Carlos, I need some music. Could you give me some music, right? And so he sent me some music. He sent me a lot of music, right? So now I'm playing music, I'm enjoying this bike. And then that was Thursday. Sunday, I see somebody posted old timers that died clean. I just couldn't believe it. You know, and I just could not believe it that I just talked to, I was like, nah, that didn't happen. And I called another friend, Lisa. She was like, yeah, you know, and I'm just like, I hear these stories. I'm just sorry that I was never in his presence when he was playing somewhere, you know, and I'm just, you know, but I'm just glad, I'm just gonna say this and I'm gonna stop. I'm just glad that I got to know him and I love him. May God have mercy upon him. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. Lotharia.
We're gonna try this one more again.
Last chance. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you.
You never, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Ooh, thank you. You never want to be that person that people cannot hear. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Okay, everybody, my condolences to everyone. I'm so happy to see everyone's face. I had one sole purpose, which was, in addition to just memorializing and testifying about what a wonderful person Carlos was, my ex, he works all the time, and he said, you know, just tell them that they were very close, from Brooklyn, you know Rodney, Sen, you know Rodney. Everyone probably knows Rodney by face. He's the father of my child. And he was really hurt by this because I don't know, we're just in a time where it's just hard to lose people and to deal with those realities. But what he said to me, and he kind of piggybacked on what Freddie said, was he said, make sure you tell them that in 1999, I had got laid off from Bronx Lebanon Hospital. I partied the whole weekend. I went to Love at 6 Hubert Street, and Carlos was spinning. And it was the best party I've ever been to in my life. And I heard that the Orishas came by and they blessed it, and Ababa blessed the party. And this person was spinning, and I have never had so much fun in my life. And this comes from an overthinking person who doesn't dance much. He felt that party in his soul. He felt Carlos in his soul. They were very close. And as you guys, as we talked about earlier, whenever you were with him, man, it was like, come into my home, sit down, let's talk. We're gonna talk about everything. And I mean, he was such a modernist. He was always about technology and about graphics and about learning something. Every time I ran into him, because we lived in the same neighborhood, he was my neighbor, lived in the same neighborhood. He was always like, I'm about to learn this, honey. And I'm about to do this. And I'm about to do that. And he always had on the flyest glasses, which always made my day randomly. But I mean, it's just a full circle moment, because when Rodney went to that party, it was Valentine's Day weekend, 1999. And the last time that I saw Carlos was, it's poignant because it was the last live event before we all got locked down. It was on the 16th of February, Valentine's Day weekend for me. So that was the last time that I saw Carlos. We were at NJPAC. And of course, it was a Lettucey and Gregory Porter concert, because he was the Lettucey and Gregory Porter one-man marketing situation. But that being said, we had such a good time, and it was full circle because I hadn't seen him for a while, but also because we were standing in line. We had gone backstage to hang out with Gregory, but Gregory was so busy signing autographs. There was a woman in line, and she had a CD, and she was like, "Oh, y'all from Jersey?" And you know, they were very cool out in Newark. And she says, "Yeah, you know, I'm so blessed to be here. I love Gregory Porter." And she went on and she was speaking. And of course, Carlos was very engaged. And she went on to say that she worked for an organization that placed people with donors for kidneys. And he was like, whoa. And there was just a connection, and it was really kismet, and we were meant to be there. And I was meant to see him that night. Fast forward to prior to his passing, I had just posted something about Carlos and about that evening and how much I missed him, and I missed everybody. And so of course I was shocked, and I'm still shocked, but he was amazing. I'll just share one more thing, because he's my Bed-Stuy guy. And you know, I could jump around from block to block and tell you about an experience that I've had with Carlos, from being at the Aquaba when Obama was elected that night, me and my mom hanging out with him doing the music and having a good neighborhood time and celebrating our Blackness and our excellence and how excellent he was. But also one night, there was a place called Solomon's Porch in Bedford-Stuyvesant that did not do music, but had an amazing hardwood floor. Carlos was playing there with Sting. And much like the closing night at the shelter, he was playing there with Sting. I lived on McDonough, which was 3 blocks away. I heard the bass in my apartment from Carlos and Sting's sound system. So I sashayed, and I was walking, and my knee was doing things. I'm walking, and there are all the people, the usual people on the corner that play the hip hop real loud, smoking mad weed. What's up? Hey. I was like, hey. And I went over to the party. I went into the party. I have never had so much fun in my life. I've never heard such bass and good sound in my life. And wouldn't you know it, the people on the corner suddenly decided that it was a good idea to walk their pit bulls over past that party because they were drawn to that bass and the energy of that party. That was the best party ever in Bed-Stuy. Everybody was up in that piece. But that being said, I just want to say God bless him. God bless his friends. God bless his family. I have so many more stories, but I won't keep you guys because it's late and I have to homeschool. But Carlos is a part of my family. He has been there since I met my man. He's been there since I had my baby. He has always been there for us and always inspired us with his novelty and and just recreating. He just kept recreating and kept being and was always in a good mood. And we knew his struggles, but he was always there. And my ex is an only child, and that was definitely his brother. But he wanted you guys to know that I don't know. I can't take anymore. So that's it for me. Thank you guys for this time and for this forum. Sen, I love you and I miss you very much.
Love you too. And thank you. And I'm so glad we got a chance to hear that from you, because that was very heartfelt. And I'm sure that, this is about us, again, getting a chance to share how, to share and to show that we love each other and to show that we care about each other through the good and the bad. And so, so thank you for that, Lathiri. I'm glad you got to share. But next we have the incomparable Fred Pierce.
Hey, what's up? How are you?
Good.
What's going on? What's going on, Bobby? Yeah, I've listened to everybody's comments and talk, and it's heart wrenching because I could pull a facet of my experience with him out of everyone's, because we were all part of it. I'm wearing the 667 hat. And this logo was designed by Nick. And it was at a party that was started, that Marcus Wright became a manager to us because I told him, go, find another spot and just do some parties, because that was after the Destiny parties we did at the Tin Room with Louis Gorbea, and Carlos was a part of that. I look back on it, Carlos has been at every venue that I had a residency, Carlos has played at, except for maybe one in Jersey where he just didn't feel like going to Jersey. He wasn't doing that. But everywhere else, Carlos has been 6 years. We did a party together at 667 every Sunday. So you do get to understand a person, what they're feeling, what their motivations are, what their aspirations are, just through listening to them every single week. And there were times where we didn't even talk, but we knew how each other's week was just from the songs and the rhythms we were playing. I remember one night he was just in a moment, and I was like, "Oh, bitch, you must have got laid something severe this weekend because you were on fire tonight." He's like, "Yes, I did." and so you could understand where he was coming from. And Carlos was amazing in different, that he was not afraid at all to pull out new music, try something different, take risks, take chances. And, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes you had something that didn't work, and then 5 weeks later, it was a hit. It's just what Carlos did. He showed me to take chances because I was always the more reserved one. But then we became a yin and yang with that. Sometimes when he'd go too far, I'd have to pull him back in or whatever. Or if I was going staying into such a plain state, he would bring me out and say, "Come on, let's take it somewhere else." And it was a great camaraderie that we had. And we played together in so many different venues beyond 667, Danceteria, places in Williamsburg, just numerous places. And you definitely get to know a person. And throughout it, we didn't always agree on everything. We started doing events together as a partnership. And of course, we didn't always agree on everything. But the one thing that I could always say about Carlos, he was genuine. There was nothing fake or phony about him at all. He was what you saw is what you got, and he was upfront and honest about it. You knew that he was very direct. Any promoter who did not pay him his coins, you knew him very well how he felt about you, and he would let it be known. But throughout it, he was balanced. He was honest. He was genuine. He was pure. And there's, you know, I'm going to miss him tremendously. We talked about doing, you know, reunion parties, and he was going to come out here and we were going to do some video events together, because I got a music room together and it looks really nice, and he was excited. He was telling me about sound systems, that he wanted stuff that he and Perry had probably worked on as far as sound systems, and he was telling me, oh, you got to get this and you got to get this and then hook it up and I'll help you out. And yeah, it hurt some because we had plans. I mean, he was not stopping. He was always hooking up a function. He was always doing something, you know, in another, you know, just like someone says, you know, Carlos was a hustler. We beyond music, I taught him how to word process, or pushed him in that direction. And so we would actually do office work in the 90s, you know, when that was a lucrative thing. Carlos never stopped working. And he was diligent with that. He had a pride for himself that he was not going to let obstacles get in his way. Yeah, there's countless amount of stories we could say. But beyond that, it's just, he was a wonderful person. And thank you so much for bringing this together, because yeah, I didn't know how I'd feel about it, but I feel wonderful that I'm here. And thanks so much for that. I appreciate it. And that's it for me.
Well, thank you. The way that this happened was that, who was it called you?
Samir.
Samir called Red. We've been doing bedtime stories for some time now. And he was like, can you help? And, you know,
Red calls in.
And the community is about, right? She called me, she was like, are you interested in doing that? And I'm like, hell yeah, we need to do this. Like, we can get people on and let them share. And especially at this time, it's so important because we can't be together in person, for us to be able to just have a moment to be together right here to celebrate each other and to celebrate Carlos and to live in that. So thank you guys for being here.
And we can let them share, and we can also ask them to donate so we can make sure that he's laid to rest properly.
Which, by the way, I'm looking at the GoFundMe as we've been doing this, and I'll just show you right now that this is where it is right now. Can you see?
90-30.
90-30, which is
right.
Not too shabby.
No, not for 2 days.
People, let's go.
That's coming through. I think we have one more speaker, and I'm going to ask to unmute him, and we will see. Kaleem, I'm asking to unmute you. You will either come on the screen or not, and that's okay, either way.
You guys hear me?
We can hear you.
So, I don't really know what to say. I'm not really good at this kind of thing.
Nobody is.
But I feel like I have to say something, you know. I don't know, man. Carlos was a real dude to me, you know. I remember a time when I remember a time when it was a really difficult period for me, you know, in my life, and you know, Carlos was a real generous dude. You know, he really embraced me and like really helped me through, you know, this really difficult period. You know, he called me every day. He took me to his house, made me dinner. You know, we went to. He took me out one night. We went to Branford Marcella's birthday party. You know, at the room in Lincoln Center. And I don't know. I think about, you know, this music industry and like the people I know and all this stuff, and you know, people come and go, and you know, you make relationships with folks, and I just want to say, you know, Carlos was a really real friend to me, you know, and I mean, I'm getting choked up just talking about it. I didn't want to come on here and say something, but I feel like I have to. You know, he was just a real generous guy, and if I think about You know, as I age, I think about my legacy and what I want people to say about me, you know, when I'm not here. And I think about Carlos, you know, and if there's anybody in this industry that I can say I want to be like, you know, like I want to be like Carlos, you know, like he was just a real open, real generous, real genuine guy. And that's all I got. I'm sorry I'm not more eloquent in my speech, but that's all I got.
I got through this whole thing without crying, and you got me, Colleen.
Yeah.
Love you. We're all in this together.
Sorry, guys.
Don't be sorry.
I'm sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about, really.
And this is what we're here for, as I think Perry might have said it earlier, that we can have the parties all the time, but real friendship is a moment like this,
Yeah.
you know? So.
And so I really thank you guys for doing this. You know, I think it's you know, I think Carlos is worthy of this, more than this, you know. And,
absolutely.
I appreciate you guys for doing this. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. Let's see, I'm gonna bring, because I feel like there may be a couple of people who weren't sure how to raise their hands. So if you did want to speak and you're here with us now, you can physically raise your hand. Okay.
Right. Or
okay, there we go. Troy?
Yeah.
The floor is yours. Okay.
So while we're trying to get that.
Oh, I see. We've changed names now.
Yes.
Dr. ZB, you said you wanted to speak, correct?
Turk.
I know,
Yes.
Turk. Go ahead.
Hi, ladies and everybody on live and Zoom. I don't know what to start. I just spoke to Carlos like about 3 weeks before this happened, but I have so many different stories and history of Carlos back in 1987 when we met at Better Days. And he's still the same guy today. He never changed, very humble. We always laugh and talk. We had a relationship behind the scenes and in the scenes. And I'm just floored. And he will always text me and give me, you know, uplifting, you know, prayers and stuff, because you know I work in the funeral home business. And I'm just floored with it. I just can't believe it. But that's why I'm trying to tell people all the time on my platform, live life. You just never know. You just never know. And you have to tell people that you love them, embrace them. You have to. And he was a genius with his music. Very just a loving person. Everything that everybody said on this live is I can't say anything else less. You know, I'm just floored, and I'm still trying to gasp all this happened. Like I was saying, God forbid, like I would have been to work and nobody would have tell me nothing, and he would have to been in my funeral home. Because that happened to me a lot too. Like during the pandemic, a lot of people who passed, and I'm going to work, they're there. So I just want us to continue his light and love, and keep his spirit alive through music and dance and love, because that's what he's about. And I have anything else to say, because I'm just still trying to get it all in, because I don't want to break down anything.
Well, thanks, Turk. And thank you for what you have been doing through all this. I've been watching you. And that's not just your work, also your giving of yourself when you're at home. It's been really uplifting for a lot of people. So thank you.
Yeah. And y'all ladies doing a fabulous job.
Thank you.
And let it just don't stop here. Continue to keep it going. And through his birthday, through holidays, through his music. And when you see each other, give each other a hug. It's nothing beat the power of love.
You said it.
Love, music, and dance. and make sure it's authentic. You know when somebody loves you just by looking in the eyes. You don't have to ever second guess. You can feel it. When it's being told to you, when it's being embraced, you can feel it. You know when I see you, you know the love is there. You feel it. And that's what we miss in this community, you know, especially in the house community. The music we dance to is about love and peace and embracing. It's not about the other stuff. And that's what he wants us to do. Love, dance, uplift, have unity within ourselves and our community.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night. I'll be here listening.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to say any words? You can physically raise your hand if you didn't know how to. Oh, Kim Lightfoot. I'm not surprised.
All right.
Lightfoot, the floor is yours. I did it, Sin.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Peace and love to everybody in the room. I see a lot of familiar faces. Vincent, Nick Perkins, Atheria, Fred, all of y'all, Cynthia, Red, everybody, Kaleem. Blessings to you guys. You know, just basically, I'm just piggybacking on what Kaleem said. How much he meant to us, how much Carlos meant to us. I've known Carlos for a long time. I've known him before we even met. I knew of him. And before I ever saw Carlos, you know, I thought he was Puerto Rican. So we finally met. I was talking with someone and he walks by and the guy, I forgot who it was I was with, and he said, "Oh, yo, there go Carlos Sanchez." And I was like, "Where?" He was standing right here in front of me. And they were like, "That's him right there." And I'm looking at this big black man. I was like, "No way, that's not," you know, that's how we met. We met. And then after that, we kept bumping to each other at different events, record store and everything. And I'm not going to tell you a whole bunch of long stories, but Carlos was always mentorish. Like when he was around, not just me, all DJs. Anybody in the music business, he always dropped gems. He always showed you stuff without trying to be like, "Oh, I know what I'm doing," or that. But he was an elder to us. He was an elder to me, and that's how I treated him. I treated him with respect. I listened to what he said, and I soaked in everything he said to me. You know, I remember when I first started playing with Kenny Carpenter at Vinyl, when Vinyl first opened back up after the Shelter had closed. And the first time I walked in that booth, Carlos was there. The first time me and Kenny did a Mike Stone party at 626 Broadway, which used to be Snodbusters, Carlos was in the booth and he was showing me, do this. He always was just right there and showing love. And I never took it like he was trying to show me up and like that. I was like, this man knows more than I did, because back then I didn't know shit. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was really winging it. And he helped me, you know, and he was always like that. You know, I was just talking with Kaleem real quick about a funny story. And I got a lot of funny Carlos stories, but we don't got time for all that. But there was one funny story that when we were at Shelter one night, and it was Halloween night. I don't know if Grace Jones was performing. Somebody was performing. And unmute Kaleem real quick. Unmute him. He has to say something.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
What was going on that night? It was Halloween, but we was at the stage. We was in front of the stage, right?
I think it was a Halloween party at Shelter.
And this woman was standing next to us. Did she bump into you?
Yeah.
She kept bumping into Kaleem. And we were like looking at like, "Oh, is she bumping to me one more time?" Anyway, me and him standing in front of the stage, we smoking. And we waiting for the show to start. We got our spot and that. And I don't know what happened. Didn't she speak? He said,
Yeah, he like I didn't even know it was him.
We didn't
You
know it was Carlos, but head to toe, wig, makeup, lipstick, pocketbook, dress, stockings, heels, everything. This motherfucker was in drag from head to toe. And we didn't know it was him. And I tell you, we laughed for the rest of the night. It never, and then after that, every time I saw Carlos after that, we brought that up. That was the funniest thing that ever happened to me in my life. It was so, and that's how he was with it. We all accepted who he was. Every time I saw him, this man gave me this big freaking bear hug. He never changed. The whole time I knew him, that's how he was with me. Yeah. And thank God that he passed through my life. Like Kaleem said, he was a real good friend to us. Probably more than I was to him. I know it was. Right. Always a good friend to me.
Right.
You know, he always was. You know, and that's it. God bless Carlos Sanchez and his family.
God bless Carlos.
Thank you. And that means you two have the pleasure of meeting Carla. That's awesome.
Yes.
All right. I see a couple of more people joined us.
Yeah, 2 more people joined us.
Did anyone else want to speak? If so, you can physically raise your hand if you didn't know how to hit the button. Okay. I think we got everybody.
Kervin wants to speak. So
I can't see Kervin on my screen. You go ahead.
Kervin, just unmute yourself and the floor.
Here we go. Kervin, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? Well, Carlos, it's funny because Kim pretty much aired everything about Carlos. My initial experiences with Carlos were very much similar, which was the first time I was playing at vinyl. Again, Carlos was there. In fact, I used to meet Carlos a lot at the record store, primarily dance tracks. I used to meet him there a lot. And he used to hang out with Mark Herring and, of course, Kenny Carpenter. They always used to hang out together. And one day I was talking with Carlos and found out that Carlos was living a couple of blocks away from me. So we go in the car with Mark Herring and we're driving over to his house. And so I'm going to share a couple of things. You know, as people may not know, Carlos, you know, fought the monster for a lot of years. You know, he had a lot of physical ailments and he fought it for a long, long time. And I was talking about some research that I was doing because I was working at Beth Israel for a couple of years, doing research on HIV. And that's how Carlos and myself connected. Really, really connected because he was really interested in what I had to say. And, you know, he took it to heart. And that's how we really connected. And if you know anything about Carlos, which is like so sad about how everything has gone, Carlos was meticulous about his health. He really took care of himself, even though he was going through many, many different things. So the first time I had played at Vinyl, I picked him up, and that was when I was going to play at Body and Soul. And Carlos was in the booth, and I remember there was one mix I was doing this long mix where I was mixing To Be in Love, La India, and El Camino Part 2. And Louis Vega had just walked into the booth. So, because he's hearing this mix. So Louis walks in and I'm doing the mix and Carlos, that comes right next to me because the El Camino ended right where there's a break where like India starts doing her ad libs, and Carlos is giving me these instructions like, okay, you know what? Okay, hold back right here. Let it breathe a little bit. Don't do this, don't do that. He was like just letting the moment really shine for everybody on the floor to appreciate. You know, he was telling me all of these different things, and I never forgot it. So that was one thing that we shared. The other thing that we shared, I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry I came on late, but I don't know if Shorty talked about it, but Shorty, of course, had his club Analog over in the Gowanus, and Carlos is an audiophile, and I want to make sure that everyone understands that definition. So Carlos was one of those who was into the recreation of sound in its purest form, so that if you played a recording, that recording had to stand out in its purest form. So he, would get the best speakers he could find, the best amplifiers he could find, and so forth. And part of that was that connection with me. I'm very much the same way. And Shorty, who I don't care what anyone else says, Shorty right now, who is the best sound guy and has the best sound systems, we would go over to Analog, and it would be just 3 of us, sometimes 4 of us in this big room, and we would bring these recordings. And Carlos, of course, whose taste in music is just out of this world. His knowledge and taste in music is out of this world. He would bring these recordings, and we would listen to them on that sound system, and we would marvel about, oh, wow, did you hear that in that song? We never heard it before. I remember when he brought Diana Ross, and he had a version of Love Hangover that I was like, where the hell did he get this version from? And he would play that, and we would just be like, wow, So we would always try to outdo each other, like, okay, you brought that recording, I brought this recording, and we would just sit there for hours with Shorty. Like I said, only 3 of us in the club. It would be a Friday or Thursday, nobody around, and we would just like marvel and marvel about sound and the recreation of that sound, and marvel about Shorty's sound system. So it was really, really that connection, So, through the and the last thing what that I really wanted to say was which he never forgot, was there was a year that we went down to Baltimore. Joe Clausel was going to play at Paradox. So Carlos, myself, it was Joe, Nooney, and my wife at the time, Hyacinth, and who else? Oh, and Juan Valentine. So all of us, we all went down to Paradox. And I remember Carlos was not feeling well. And Hyacinth kept on saying, I think there's something wrong. I think you might be diabetic. And he was like, no, I'm not. And she said, no, I think that you're diabetic. I think that you need to go and get yourself checked. And in fact, she was right. He was at the point where he was so diabetic that he could have gotten into diabetic shock. So she was absolutely right about that. And he never forgot her for that. He would always, when he would see me, oh, how's she doing? How's Hyacinth? Even though they hadn't seen each other for years, he would always reach out, like, oh, tell her I said hi, tell the kids I said hi. He was Carlos is a very, very giving and concerning person. He would know everything about you that you needed to know. It wasn't about you having to know about him, but him also knowing about you and your family. You know, he was really, really caring in that regard. So, you know, in closing, I'm just it's just so sad that he had so much yet to do. You know, he has some releases coming out which are going to be like really huge. Of course, he has the Gregory Porter, which is about to drop, and it's just sad that he took so much time to take care of himself and that he just went so swiftly like that on just an accident. It's just really, really messed up, you know? And I'm gonna miss him. I'm really, really, really gonna miss him. He Carlos was a really, really special guy. And I really hope that everybody contributes to his funeral arrangements because he deserves that much from everybody. And again, I'm gonna miss him. That's it. Thanks for letting me talk.
Thanks, Carvin.
Thank you. You know, I just like, as I'm sitting here hearing all of these stories from everyone, it really moves me to tell everyone here to make sure that you reach out to at least one person today in the name of the spirit of Carlos Sanchez and just tell them that you love them, you know? And it doesn't take a response from them to do that. It doesn't take anything but just for you to share that loving energy, because that's really the embodiment of what he has brought to all of us.
And hugs. If you're around people that it's, you know, unfortunately, we're still in a pandemic, but if you are around people that are safe and you feel safe, hug people, because it's an ongoing theme tonight that Carlos knew details about the people he loved. And apparently he gave the best hugs. I remember the hugs, but everybody seems to mention the hugs. It's people talking about it in the chat. Hug the people you love. And what Sin said, exactly that. But you know what? You don't, that call is not for your best girlfriend that you spoke to yesterday. Y'all know who that call is for, and that's for you to do and you to decide, you know? We all know who that call is for each of us. And you might have to make more than one call.
Right.
And
so we want to open the floor to Basil next. To
Basil, the floor is yours.
Hey, hello everybody. How you doing? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You know, it's been a real difficult last couple of days for me, a last week at least. A couple of days ago, my daughter's mother died. And a couple of days before that, I called Kim up. You know, I talk to Kim regularly because when Carlos passed away, the first two people I really thought about when he passed was Kim and Michael, MKL, Michael Lopez. And, you know, we all, when we're introduced, especially to a different level of bringing the music to people, we all have literally like someone who is our mentor. You know, for me, I was lucky because I had both Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles, and for a couple of years, Joey Llanos mentored me, and there were different people like David Cole and other people in my life. But when I think about Carlos, I think back to about 1989 or 1988, when I actually was playing at the Choice. I had just started playing at the Choice, and I was alternating nights with Larry Levan. And at that particular time, Larry wasn't really having it. You know, Larry was making it kind of rough for me back in those days. And he was making it known, you know, like, who is this guy? What is he doing here? And it wasn't like he was being friendly to me. And there was one day I was playing, and I remember distinctly because I think I told Kim this story. Carlos and Larry Levan were actually standing on the dance floor. And I was bringing in the record. And at that particular time, all the youngins, who of course are all grown up adults now, they were reacting and going off on the mix that I was doing, that I was riding. And that's why when I was listening to Curvin talk about Carlos giving him instructions on the mix, it actually kind of inspired me to tell this story. And I remember I did this mix, and back in 1989, I was pretty much at a different stage in my life. I was only 29 years old. I'm 61 years old now. So, you know, retrospectively, I look back at that moment, and I remember Carlos walking up to me after I finished the mix. And the crowd had actually went crazy on the mix. So I'm kind of full of myself thinking I did something big. Carlos walked up to me right when I was playing, and he started talking to me in my ear. And Carlos, being the perfectionist that he is, he talked to me about when I'm mixing a record, how I need to listen to the record closely, sonically in the headphones, and listen to both of the records. When I say both of the records, you listen to the record that you're about to bring in, and then you go back and you listen at the same time to the record that's already playing. And sonically, you go back to that record that you're about to bring in, and you make the adjustments inside of your headphone that's going to match sonically to the record that's already playing. And at that particular time when I was mixing, I was basically just making sure that I had records on beat, and I wasn't really too worried about the way records were mastered or mixed at that time in 1989. And Carlos was the one who came up to me, and literally now it's basically
It looks like we lost Basil.
I was ready to hear what happened.
Oh, I was there. I'm getting ready to put in the chat the link to the Bedtime Stories, which was Carlos's last interview that we did. The Bedtime Stories with myself and Red and Carlos Sanchez, and the other guest with Carlos was Ian Friday. So I'm going to put that link in the chat for you right now.
And while she does that, once again, have we gotten to everybody that wanted to speak? I think we have. Well, I guess, don't forget, this special episode was for donations. Well, first of all, it was to remember Carlos, but we put it together very quickly because we wanted him to be laid to rest properly. So if you have it, and you can, please do. The links are on everywhere this is playing right now. And thanks to everyone that joined us.
And remember that Carlos is still alive in you. Carlos lives in you. You are made up of who you have touched. You're made up of who has helped you, have moved you. They make you who you are. And Carlos is still right there. The same way you could still hear him laughing. The same way you could still feel his hugs. He's still alive in you. And remember to keep him alive.
There you go. I mean, you said it. And yeah. Thanks, everybody. And I'm gonna go ahead and say, if you watch the video of that last interview, also subscribe to our channel, because we have things going on and we have other bedtime stories that are being told, that have been told, and
lots of
like
beautiful
something like this, you never know what's gonna happen. So, it's good to know more about each other, because it's not always a party, and a lot of us have a lot of very interesting things about us. So
Yes.
So thank you all. And this has been a pleasure to do. My name is Red, and
I'm Sin Rose.
And some roads.
And this has
Thank
been
you,
the special
guys.
episode of Bedtime Stories dedicated to our friend Carlos Sanchez. So thank you everyone that joined us, and everybody have a good night.
Good
Thank you,
night.
ladies.
Good night. Good night.
Patrick.
Thank
Good
you.
night, Sharon.
Love you,
guys.
Sharon.
Love you
Love you.
all. Love
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Heart.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Bye,
Thank you.
Sharon.
Bye.
Love you.
Good mouse.
Good night.
Bye,
Bye, you guys.
everyone. Good night. Good night. Good night. Night.
Good night,
I love you.
Love you more, girl. I do. I miss your face.
Sin Rose. I know, right? Here it is. Here it is.
Oh, come back.
What happened?
Basil, come back. You can still tell the story. Come back. We'll wait for you.
Wait for you, Basil.
But some of the people wanted to know what was about to happen in that story.
In that story, and then it just ended. Oh. Well, we're gonna have to call Basil and get that story.
Look, he's got a few more seconds. Basil, return.
Yes. Basil, we are here. We ain't going nowhere for another 3 minutes.
3 minutes is a long time. What we gonna talk about for 3 minutes? Well, I'll tell you what somebody said. Lotharia said everybody should take that GoFundMe link and put it on their own pages. So everybody that can hear me, everybody that was on with us, everybody that's viewing, if you could just pop it on your own page or do a little share, that would be great.
Share of that GoFundMe. Let's get it up to the goal. That would be awesome. This has been really special. Like, this really, it warms my heart because I'm a big, I love everybody person, and I want everybody to love each other, right? So this makes me happy because this is how we show each other we love each other.
This is what we do. And, it's also the reminder to let the people know you love them now, right now.
Right now. Don't wait.
So.
Don't wait.
Well, we waited.
We did wait, and
trying to get you on here, Basil. You know what that means, right? We just have to have Basil on the Bedtime Stories,
right?
So he can tell that story, and then some more.
We will have to have the Basil on the Bedtime Story.
The solution is simple.
Super easy.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen.
Rest in paradise, Carlos Sanchez. Your spirit is alive within us.
You said it. And I mean, that party up there must be really, really something. So.
And the sound, honey.
Hello.
The sound. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna stop our live. Everybody, thank you.
Everyone.
And good night, everyone.
Good night. It's bedtime.